Right. So, welcome back to Influential Dental. I'm here with some very, very special guests, and of course, my co host, Michael Keeter. I'm Julieanne O'Connor, and it's an absolute pleasure to be co hosting this show and have some incredible guests today. But hey, Mike, how are you?
Good, Julianne. Great to be back again and very much look forward to this interview. I'm very excited about where we're going to go today.
Yeah, so let's just jump right in today. I don't think there's any need for a delay. We have some incredible, very, very influential, some of the most influential people in the dental space on our show today. Mr. Jim Glidewell and Stephanie Goddard. Welcome to Influential Dental today. We are so thrilled to have you both on the show. Thank you so much for being here and gifting us your time and gifting our listeners with some of your story and background. I think this is going to be a phenomenal show, and I can't wait to jump right in.
Thank you,
Absolutely.
Juliana and Michael. Thank you very much. We're very, very pleased to be here.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to jump right in. I got to the opportunity to meet both of you at one of your symposiums, which was just fabulous. You guys put on such a beautiful symposium. And one of the things that really stood out right away out of the gate was just the way we were greeted, the way we were talked to, the way we were treated, and just how unbelievable your entire team, from salespeople to literally every single person that we met, was over the top, kind, and generous. Why? How? How do you do that? What's your story? I'm curious.
These projects take months to put together. And of course, we do so many of them that as we do two large shows every month of some type, it just gets easier and easier. I mean, from the bartenders to the service people, it's well constructed. And we have one lady that basically puts the whole thing on. And she does, what does she do? I mean, 150,
Joelle,
Joelle.
she does about 100 events a year, I think.
Easily about 100 events a year that we handle. And so it's a polished act. It really is. And we think that people come out here deserve to be treated with respect and entertained as much as we possibly can. And of course, we're in the marketing business too. So we need to make sure that they're having a good time and want to come back, you know.
Yeah, I think it's funny, Julianne, just one of the comments that we get continuously is similar to what you said, but as part of the symposium, they do a tour of our facilities, and every time they come back from the tour, they're like, "People at Glidewell are really happy. Like, people on the floor, you walk by, they're happy, they're smiling. What are you putting in the water?" And I think, it's a testament to the culture. People really do. Jim has this saying, he wants people to say not TGIF, thank God it's Friday, but thank God it's Monday, TGIM. So I think he just wants to use his initials, in there somehow. But I think people truly love what they do. And we're so lucky. This organization's 55 years old. And if you look at the tenure, we've got amazing tenure that you just don't see in organizations today. We just had a celebration a couple of weeks ago. How many people did we have with us who had a 30-year anniversary, a 25-year anniversary, a 20-year anniversary? I mean, it's unheard of. We actually
Hundreds. Yeah.
had several hundred people had a major milestone anniversary this year. And I think it's really a testament to the culture that we've built, and people really do love being here and love what they do. And especially at the symposiums, I think there is sort of a vibe and a feel, and people get excited to have so many dentists on our campus and get to show them what we're about. And what you see is true emotion, from our employees, and they're truly happy to be here and enjoy those events.
I wanted to add to that I find that people, if you let them just do their job and don't interfere, that they're going to be happy in their job. They want to come to work every day. But if they think they're coming to work and going to be criticized, ostracized, corrected constantly, no, they don't want to be there anymore. And it's almost a symptom of laziness on our part sometimes. I think it's hard to manage 15 to 20 people in a dental lab. But when you get to about 150, it got real easy. You got professional HR people and everything. And so it gets a lot easier. It's really hard to manage 12 to 15 man lab. But I hope the people watching this understand that. There's a tendency to over control and micromanage.
Yeah, that's, I think, such a gift that you have, because a lot of people are afraid, right? Because they want to, they expect everybody to do things as well as they do, and or the same way, I guess. And I think it's a gift when you can start allowing people, but how do you let go of your fear around that? Because there's some desire to make sure that things are being done properly, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
I was this morning writing a little article about Arkansas and how Green Dental Laboratory has done so well over the years down there, and it was because, Josh originally put together a system of hub and spoke pickup and delivery system that created an ongoing relationship with his customers, something I haven't done out here. But it was very successful. To this day, it's still very successful.
Mhm.
It's a system that where you don't really interfere with your employees and you treat your customers correctly. I don't know why I brought that up, but I just thought this morning about Josh's laboratory and how well he did with that.
Well, and again, you kind of called it, you labeled it as a system, which means that it's intentional, right? It's
Yeah.
not by accident that this is happening. And Mike, I know you have some questions on this, but I have to just chime in on one thing that you guys made me think of, Stephanie, especially with your comment about the tour. We got that tour as well. And when we took that tour, we ended up in your guys' office. It's so intimate. There's no walls, there's no barriers. You don't see that anywhere where the executive team has no privacy. And also I remember somebody talking about donuts. There was another donut sideline to that. But tell me a little bit about that.
Well, for quite a few years, about 30 years, I think I've been giving out free donuts on Fridays. And it doesn't sound like a big deal. And
Until
even
you
if,
take it away.
until you take it away. Now, during 2009, I remember my CFO came to me. She said, "We can save $80,000 a year if we don't give out the donuts on Fridays." And I kept saying I wouldn't do that. And my CFO and my CEO at the time, they both said, "No, we need to do this because the money's tight. We don't want to lay anybody up." And they had a good reason for it. But I mean, the first Friday the donuts didn't show up, people were howling about it. And I think about a year later,
It was less than a year.
less than a
Those
year,
donuts were not gone for very long.
yeah, they weren't very long, and we put the donuts back in, and people were cheering on the floor. It was a really weird thing when we rolled the donuts out on Friday morning. People were cheering. It was amazing.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that. Is that a legit number? 80K on
Well,
donuts?
no, not
Okay.
anymore.
Because you
It
did
was
I
It's more.
hear
80,000.
Back then we had 1,000 employees. Now we have 5,000, close
We
to
probably spent
5,000. So
$100 and $200,000 a year on donuts, more than likely, maybe more than that.
more than that.
And I guarantee your return is probably 10x or more. So I think that was a wise choice to bring them
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, what's your return on investment? You think about that. Well, happy people produce at a higher rate.
But you were asking, Julianne, too, about the open bay concept that we have in our office. And so I'm the only woman sitting in a room with 4 other men. And sometimes my estrogen is stronger than the testosterone in the room. They're nice enough to put up with me. But the really nice thing about it, people think that's so strange. Like, don't you want to have your own space? But the nice thing about it is I don't have to have a separate meeting with the people that I share the office with, right? We talk to each other all day. If something important or critical is coming up, I don't have to set up a time for a meeting or find time that everyone's calendars are open that we can talk about it. We just talk about it in the office, and then you can move on and do whatever else it is that you need to get done that day. So it does increase efficiency, as maybe strange as it seems. It's a big space. So it's not, you have space to yourself. You're not sort of talking over one another, but it does increase our efficiency in getting some decisions made.
Yeah, so I think it's really amazing. Mike, really quickly, just a heads up, your chair is squeaking some, so just beware
Thank you.
when you're moving around. But so I think that's awesome. Mike, I know you have some questions you want to ask these guys while we have them, and so
Yeah,
jump in.
and again, I appreciate the candidness, and again, I agree with Julianne about the tour and your facility, and just the people make a difference. I've been in the industry about 18 years, and I've gone to a lot of symposiums and meetings, and met a lot of people and companies. And by far, you guys are one of the top when it comes to um, rolling out the red carpet and being professional, and having people have a good time. So one, that's a testament to you two from the top, but obviously the rest of your team. The question I had is I think I would like to know, and so would the people that are watching and listening, is how did you both find each other, right? Stephanie, how did you decide to come to Glidewell? And then Jim, how did you decide to entrust your company to Stephanie to run it? So feel free to start where you want, but I really want to hear the story from each of your perspectives.
So I'll start how I came to Glidewell. I kind of came, I guess, maybe by accident. So I was living in DC and moving back to California. And the COO that Jim was talking about before, Rob Grice, he found my resume on monster.com. So that's how long ago it was. It'll be 19 years in September. Um, and he called me one day and we started talking and he said, I'm looking for a head of HR. And so we talked a lot and about some of the issues that he was facing and some of the goals that they had for the organization. I said, well, I'm not really an HR person, but I have a lot of friends in California. I'm happy to recommend you. And we talked for an hour and he said, that's okay. I think I found my person. I was like, okay, like this guy's really just wasted an hour of my time. And then he said, so when can you come in and meet with everyone? And I was like, oh, me? But I told you I'm not an HR person. And he said, I don't want an HR person. I want somebody who has your background with leadership development and strategy and change management. Like, we really want to go on a growth trajectory. We want to do something different. And I think you have the right background. I don't want somebody who knows all the rules and is going to tell me what to do. I want somebody who's going to tell me, how can you help me get to where we want to go? So that's kind of how I landed here at Glidewell. I came in as the VP of Human Resources 19 years ago. And then slowly took on different roles, became VP of Business Operations, and then became EVP of Business Operations, and then Chief Experience Officer, and then CEO in 2020.
Three, two.
Yeah, 22.
I had
Nice.
not
I
heard that
love it.
story before, by the way. I
You had it?
haven't. No, I did not know that.
Really?
Well, because Rob was so independent, he ran
Yeah.
everything. I just trusted him to run everything. So I didn't realize about the conversation.
Yeah.
I know you'd come out here to interview with Pimco.
PIMCO and American Funds. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We sidetracked you 19 years
Yeah.
ago.
Well, and the funny thing is when I was interviewing, I met everybody, like 25 people, but they wouldn't let me meet Jim Glidewell. And I said, but, I really think I should meet the owner. They're like, no, 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 it's fine. Trust me. And then Jim told me, he said, well, it's a good thing you didn't meet me. I wouldn't have hired you.
Is so funny. Oh, Jim, a curiosity. So obviously, it takes a lot of trust, just to Mike's, point, to bring somebody into a CEO role of your company. What was it about Stephanie that made you know that this was the risk worth taking?
Well,
Not that
actually,
it was, but
well, Stephanie's very, she's probably aggressive, and she finally basically demanded the role. As I
I
remember,
didn't.
it's kind of like she demanded the role, really.
Oh my goodness,
So
I did
remember,
not.
I
You're
was
such a
CEO
stinker.
up until oops, she took that role away. No, I was actually the CEO of the company for 52 years. And then our COO left, and she was going to assume the job as COO, but then she decided CEO would be a good moniker, and I agreed with her because I was I've been taking some more time off. I play a little golf during the week, so I only put in about 25, 26 hours a week. And somebody needs to be here the whole time, and I felt the CEO is the right name for that.
Well, I think you did a good job there, Jim. Just knowing Stephanie for a brief time and then hearing her credentials and obviously, first impressions for both of you in your organization. So I appreciate that. But I'm sorry you were going to add on to what you were saying.
Well, I was going to add to that that I do not approve of any of the hires. There's people that job is to do that very thing. So I was not consulted on the hiring 19 years ago because I trusted the people who do the hiring to do the hiring. So I don't interfere in the operations of the company very much. I think what I'm really good at for the most part is coming up with ideas that I think dentists might want, whether it's, a zirconia or a lithium disilicate or some kind of materials things that I come up with. And also my background is I'm a dental technician, not a proven businessman. It looks like I'm running a big business, but that's really because I let a lot of other people run the business. We don't have a lot of meetings that involve me.
so okay. So I'm kind of curious, like on the very, going back further, were you raised a certain way that led you to a certain leadership style? I know that Stephanie, you've been training and doing this for years. Your process is change management. It is leadership. But Jim, what's your background look like? I'm kind of curious how'd you grow up? Did you, grow up with money? What was your, we know you have it now.
Yeah. Well, I will say that I was wealthier than the family next door because we had 2 mules and they only had 1 mule, and, we had no electricity, no running water, and I went to a one-room schoolhouse where I was the only 1st grader, the only 2nd grader, the only so that's my background is the hills of Kentucky, and,
Wow.
then I moved to Las Vegas where I was actually born, but I had to live with grandparents, went from the time I was, like, 4 till I was about 10 or 11. Then I was able to move back to Las Vegas where my father finally got married and could take care of me. But the rest of it, I went to, Orange Coast College, a local college. I think it's in my book if you read it. I graduated at the bottom of my high school class, 328 out of 331, and I still think I worked too hard. I should have been 331. But, and then immediately following high school, I joined the Navy the day I turned 18, and I was shipped off to Vietnam. And I came back when I was 20 after a 2-year stint, and then, a couple years later, I had a little short time in the insurance business for about a year and a half, sold insurance to a dental technician, thought it looked like an honest business, and then I came to Orange Coast College in California to attend a technical school they had there, so I have an associate in arts and 2-year program, but mainly it's just a trade school type of an education I have, though I had the usual psych classes and business classes that you would take in a 2-year program. Then I just started, as soon as I got out of school, I went to work for a dentist locally, and he went out of business in a short time. So January the 6th, 1970, I was forced out into the street, really. I said, "Well, Dr. Stanley, how much time do we have to get out of the building?" Because I was working in his office. He said, "Oh, we've got 10, 15 minutes, and we've got to be out of here." So I said, "Well, where are we going to go?" Because he was a dear friend at that time, and he says, "I'm sorry, I don't know where you're going to go, but I'm going to get a job in Los Angeles." And that was it. I was out on the street, and I found out where there was an open dental laboratory, and I mean very, very small, but a bench and a casting well, and a chair. And so I rented that the following Monday morning, and I was up and running. And today it's out of control.
Wow, that is a
Wow.
great story, and I remember you sharing that with Julian and I when we were at the symposium, and I do remember you talking about that, and that is very inspirational to obviously our audience. A question I have for you both is regarding influence, and obviously our podcast is called Influential Dental. Who has provided influence to each of you? Early on in your career, and then currently, and then how do you provide influence, or what do you think about that word in general?
Well, I would say it's very interesting, but I remember the first time I hired an employee. I was really busy, and a lady from my class walked in the door. My graduating class walked in, and I hired her to do model and die work. And I just felt an overpowering need to take care of her. The employees I hired, I was the guy in charge of their careers. It's always been that way. So I don't know how else to answer that. I really don't know. I was very motivated, though, to take care of all my employees all the time.
Well, that's your influence, Jim. It's obviously your heart and your mind and wanting to help
Mm.
others. And I guess Stephanie can share on that. But Stephanie, I'd love to hear, your thoughts on that word and who's influenced you in the past and present.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I've been really blessed and lucky my whole life to have so many influential mentors or leaders or managers that I've worked for. It was funny, I just got like a little LinkedIn message from my very first mentor yesterday, who I worked for when I was in graduate school. And like to see somebody's name pop up in your feed or to say like congratulations on something is so, empowering and to remember how they helped you sort of get your first start in life. Right. And so I think for me, one of the things that's always influenced me is that one leader who helped me sort of get on my path, and the way he did it was really sort of being a selfless leader and help and encouraging me to leave the organization and to go on and find a new opportunity. And And I think, selfless or servant leadership has sort of been a core construct for me ever since that time. And I think that works really well here, obviously, from Jim's story. And it's sort of a more of a servant leadership type of model as well. And I think we both come from we come from very different backgrounds, but philosophically very similar types of ideals in terms of paying it forward, whether it's to your employees or maintaining that sense of responsibility and accountability for the people that work for you and finding ways to pay it forward for other people to be able to succeed in their lives too.
Yeah, I love that. So Mike and I came together really kind of under funny circumstances where we felt like, you know, people weren't training us well at a certain point, and it happened to be in this realm where we came together and we're like, we were so mad and we were just like, what do we do? And then we're like, what if we just take the high road? And our company was formed out of this desire to lift people up, right? And so when we decided to do the podcast, our magazine, everything, we said, who can we go to and bring on the show to demonstrate who already demonstrate this idea of taking care of other people, that they're not out there trying to be influential for the sake of being influential, but they lift people up. And so you guys absolutely are the epitome of that you absolutely represent it, you live it, you truly are that. And so I would ask you this. So there's great responsibility, right? When you come into this level of influence where people are, kind of awed by you, and both of you have hit that status in your careers. And so, with that responsibility, you're also on overwhelm probably at times with how much outreach there may be, I would imagine. And correct me if I'm wrong, but how do you handle deciding where you spend your time, who you help? And, there's a lot of good people. Like, how can you expand that? Who's the extension of your team to help that happen? How do we get so lucky to get your time? Like that, like, because you know what I mean? But how do you do that? How do you maintain? Obviously, we know your team has been great with working with us, but generally speaking, how do you decide?
Do you want to take that?
Well, it's interesting you'd say that you two were somewhat frustrated with your career guidance. And our job, our job with Stephanie and I is to continue trying to find ways to increase the career objectives of our employees. Even though we're sitting here very successful, we have a lot of people in the company who have the potential to be successful. And unless we build the company larger, they'll never get a chance. They'll become frustrated in their positions too. So I think that's a real driving thing for me. When I come to work every day, I think, how can I make more people successful? And the only way I can do that is by getting more business in the door. The negative side of that is if I get more business, somebody somewhere is losing business. It's a zero sum game. There's 40, I don't know, 40 to 45,000 of us that are dental technicians in the United States. And I don't take great pleasure in taking business from other laboratories because I know that there's a corresponding loss of a job. I don't know if that makes sense to you or not, but
Yeah.
it's the way.
It makes me think of something you said once, which is a little bit off track, but kind of in alignment because you are somebody who's very candid about these things. And one thing that you said to us, I believe, was something about, everybody comes together because they want something. Was that you that said that? Do you remember this conversation?
Well, I think that people are always motivated by their own selfish interest. It's a hard thing to say it that way, but I know that I make decisions every day based on what I want. My employees make decisions based on what they want. I know when I mentioned Josh Green earlier, he had come up with a pay system that mimicked my pay system at the time. It really was like a piecework pay system. So the people that sit in the benches out here, they're motivated to do the work in front of them because they're getting paid for it, that part of the work. It's almost like they have their own company inside of Glidewell. So I always consider it to be like a 60-inch company. The bench is 60 inches wide and the 24 inches deep. And that's a 60-inch company. And my job is to make sure they have plenty of work coming into that through marketing or new product development. And that's basically how I look at it. And my people don't come to work here to be my best friend every day. That's not what it's all about. It's really trying to they're worried They don't think about me. They think about themselves. Is that selfish or not? No, but they're thinking about their own family, their own rent, their car payments, the things that affect them. And so I'm concerned about that all the time. How do we keep those people busy? And so far,
Stephanie, what are your thoughts on that?
On the keeping people busy part, or I mean,
Well,
like,
just the
I
whole concept. I'm just kind of curious because it's an interesting thing to have somebody just say it like it is. That we're all motivated by our own desires. We're all coming into it pretending like, oh, it's to help you or this or that. But then there's this selfish side, right? And it's put kind of candidly to say that, right? But
yeah,
just curious.
like the psychology of people would dictate that they're doing things because you're getting something out of it, right? So whether it's a dopamine hit or it's a paycheck or whatever it is, right? We all psychologically have a reason for doing things, and I think the way that Jim says it might sound harsh, but it's probably like there's a reality to it as well, right? But I do think that you asked about, how do you pick and choose where you're going to focus your time, or where do you choose to help out? And I think the main focus is we try to help out at home first, right? So home being Glidewell. So the biggest focus is sort of Glidewell comes first and foremost out of everything. And then how much other time do you have in addition to that? So, and I think from maybe a selfish perspective is everything that I'm going to do that's outside of Glidewell, can it help Glidewell in some way, in a sense of helping our employees, right? So if whatever's taking my attention away, is it going to eventually lead to the benefit of our employees or the benefit of Glidewell in some way, and to the benefit of the industry in general, right? So it's not that, if I'm asked to speak at something, I'm not speaking at sort of like an F1 racing event, right? Because that doesn't have anything to do with dentistry. It doesn't help our employees at all. It doesn't help the name of Glidewell. But if it's, speaking to lab owners and helping them understand some tools about maybe how to grow their business, that might not help Glidewell, like Jim was saying. Maybe they're taking business away from Glidewell and away from our employees, but it helps the greater good of the lab business. So I think if you were to ask me about how do I pick and choose where I spend my time, it's really that. It's like the core function of Glidewell, and how does that has to be my primary focus. And then from there, how does it sort of help the broader industry?
Understood. What a great answer. I appreciate that. That's amazing.
Yeah, and regarding in regards to that, and I love kind of the holistic approach, and really knowing what drives yourselves, but again drives the company and your employees. I think to have that pulse is amazing because not all companies have that in dentistry or anywhere else. But what we've done with Influential Dental, and what I hear you is there's plenty of business for everyone. It's just how you want to lead your life or lead your company, right? To uplift others and to bring others with you. I do remember a comment, Jim, that you made or someone from your team about you're open. Glide was open for business. If other labs or anyone wants to come, come see what we're doing, and then vice versa. It sounds like you're doing that with laboratories and dentists. But I do think that you can lead and you can inspire, and you can bring others with you, and there's nothing wrong with that for your own selfish interests or others. So, what are your thoughts on that? To dig deeper into that.
well, earlier in the week, I wrote a note I saw a gentleman, it was Rowe Dental Laboratory, and I wrote Mr. Kowalski a letter because I saw his 240 employees lined up in front of his building. And I wrote him a nice letter complimenting him on everything he's done and how he had built his company. And I was very emotional about it. He wrote me back. He appreciated that. But I said, we're not enemies. We're all brothers in the same industry. And I always try to convey that. Whereas the industry, and if you talk to people behind the curtain sometime, they're going to say Glidewell is the evil empire. And I understand that, and I understand the trepidation about even dealing with us. So, like, if we try to become a processing center for other laboratories, they don't tend to support that. I don't blame them a bit. So we focus on dentists. And there was a time when we had a machining center in Las Vegas that was strictly for dental laboratories in the beginning of the zirconia revolution, about 2010, 2011. Eventually, it just started dying down because the laboratories really didn't. Well, I think they were chasing better prices probably. If you look at it,
Yeah,
I think that everybody started opening up these milling centers and the prices were starting to drop. And after a while, out of desperation, we said, okay, we're going to start working for dentists because in the beginning it was only
There's only
laboratories
labs.
only. We started it for dental laboratories. So I've always run into that concept of what is the evil empire. And I understand how people feel. I just do. And it really doesn't bother me too much. We keep doing the best we can for our employees. But as I said earlier, I don't take pride in taking a customer from somebody else. Uh, the only good thing is we hope eventually that the patients will benefit from something we're doing out here that we've researched and is better for the patient than whatever that laboratory was we took the customer from that elected not to do the advanced training or not to take offer those new products. Do you realize that there's still labs out there that specialize in porcelain fused to metal? I mean, I can't believe it. There's some PFM guys out there that says no zirconia is bad. It wears opposing dentation, blah blah. And while proven untrue so many times, I think we still have 3, 4, 5% of our
Mhm.
dentists do
Yep.
PFMs, but we do the pressing technology. We use lithium disilicate on top of metal. But I don't know why they don't just use zirconia. I mean, I'm really amazed at that. I don't know if I helped you with that, Michael, but
Yeah, no, that's good. Stephanie, do you want to comment on that from your perspective in the industry itself, or strategic partnerships, or what on how to what Glidewell or you're doing to uplift the industry or your own team?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've introduced a ton of technology into the industry, whether it's through the introduction of Bruxer. You mentioned earlier, our doors are always open. We're willing to share everything and anything with anybody all the time. They don't always want it, but we're always willing to offer to share. Like Jim said, it's a small industry, it's a big industry at the same time, right? But like you said, Michael, there's enough work to go around. Like we're not in the business of putting other labs out of business. Like we think that there's more than enough work to go around. We are the largest, but there's still other labs out there that we also want to have them be just as successful and watch them grow as well. And I think there's room for that to happen as well. But I think Jim's done an amazing job of constantly trying to share our technology, and it is sort of this weird dichotomy of being friends and enemies at this, or competitors maybe at the same time, right? So how do you work in that space together? But the ones that we do it well with, I think we do it really really well, and they appreciate that partnership. And the one space that we've gotten into more maybe is outside of necessarily the lab space, but in the technology space as well. And that's another area that we've tried to branch out into, which nobody else really seems to want to follow us into that space, right? Whether it's chairside dentistry and chairside mills, there aren't any other labs really who want to follow us into that tech space and that tech realm, whether it's writing our own software, or making our own materials, or creating our own equipment. So there's still a ton of room in the entire field of dentistry that we can expand into and not impact negatively other labs.
Yes. Go ahead, Jim.
I'd like to add on to that a little bit. I think most of it, we start a career and we have this idea that we're going to own a dental laboratory and we're going to have a nice house and a couple of cars. And when we get to that point, we tend to pull back a little bit and just say, okay, I've arrived. I'm comfortable. I'm got a great middle class life. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Unless people look back and say, the employees that work for me today, the 10 people I have or something, um, they don't have any career advancement opportunities. So remember, the beginning of my little spiel here has been, how do you advance the careers of your people? And the only way you can do that is by getting more business in the door, taking courses, inventing things, continually bringing new technology to your company, and respect the fact that if you hired somebody today and you have 10 people and you told them, honestly, I'm really happy with being a 10-man lab. Swear, I'm just really happy being here. So I want you to know that I have no plans for your career growth now or in the future. I have no interest in that. My thing is my stuff. I got my stuff and that's all I care about. And if you're honest with people, it's not a good place to be. I like to see, I think the honesty integrity is a very small laboratory in a dental office, or, a 1 or 2 man lab someplace. He's not hiring employees. But when you hire people, you owe it to them to make their lives better.
Yeah, I love that. So that kind of goes back to this responsibility that we have as leaders, right? And I think it's amazing. I think it's actually quite unselfish. And it's interesting because you share both sides of it. I do understand that there's some benefit to you as well, perhaps, but you're right. You could say this is enough. And you've always been that person who's like, it's not enough. Innovation, make it better. I've heard you say that several times in person, even um, and you've hit some pretty extreme pinnacle of success, Jim. I mean, you've got more than a couple cars, right? I understand you may have a few planes. Is that not true?
Well, I do. I have
Yeah.
boats, planes, and all that. But, I happen to buy everything used practically. I don't have an airplane that's less than 15 years old. I don't have a boat that's less than 12 years old. You know, and every day I come here, I drive a Toyota FJ, a 2007 Toyota FJ, out of respect to my employees. And I really don't have anything fancy at home. I drive the FJ every day. So I don't think, people who need to have a fancy car, it just isn't what I am.
Yeah,
Never
so
has.
it's funny. Mike and I had a fun experience with you with, I think, a jacket, right? Mike, you want to
Yep.
tell the story?
Well, no, Jim can tell the story, but all I remember is he opened up his jacket and I think it either had someone else's name in it or something else. Jim, you explained it where you bought the jacket and kind of the history of it. And then I remember as we walked out the door the second day, you made sure to show me that jacket again, the inside of it. So do you want to share that story from your perspective? But I did thank you for that. And it was very endearing and it did make me think. And obviously we remember it to this day.
Well, I don't want to embarrass my family or Stephanie, but the jacket you're referring to, I bought at Goodwill.
Right.
I once went to Goodwill to drop off a lot of extra things. And I went inside and said, wow, I got a lot of nice coats in here. So this coat I'm sitting here today is $15 at Goodwill. I encourage everybody who needs a nice coat, go to Goodwill.
I love it.
And by the way, on the inside it says Nordstrom.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. It said Nordstrom. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, look, I got this Nordstrom jacket at Goodwill. Yes.
And I have,
That's right.
I probably 8 or 10 of them actually of jackets I buy like that. I never go into a retail store. The shopping centers around here never see me. I never go into them, and I don't buy things for myself. I buy things for my family a lot, but not for myself.
Yeah. So, one of the things that we talk about a lot, and Mike and I are, we're figuring it out as we go, just like any human, always asking ourselves, what do we want to be when we grow up, right? And
Yeah,
one of the things that we're always curious about is somebody's mindset, right? And we've talked a lot about that today already, just some of these foundational principles and why you operate a certain way. Mike and I both have similar stories to yours, Jim. Well, I grew up with no plumbing. Mike has a similar story. We came from nothing. And there is a piece of that that sometimes causes you to operate on fear. So you're almost wired on this overdrive of survival sometimes when you've come out of a situation like that. And so then we always look at how do you transform that into really navigating things in a powerful way where you step into your potential fully because I think everybody's playing underneath their potential. So just curious, like around the topic of mindset, and I'm sure Stephanie, you have a lot to chime in on this as well. But what are your guys' thoughts around what that means? What's that look like? How do you teach other people or show other people in your organization how mindset plays into, how they operate in terms of, their production, their ability to step into potential, et cetera?
I mean, I think if you were to look at Glidewell and ask me, what is the mindset of Glidewell as an organization? It would be a growth mindset. And I think that gets reiterated every day just in the way that we operate the business. So that's definitely Jim's mindset as a growth mindset. He's constantly challenging. My favorite things are when somebody tells him, you can't do that. And when he says, like, who says you can't? Like, have you tried? Did you do this test and this test? It's amazing when he starts to dig in and you find out how much he knows about engineering or material science. Like, he'll ask the craziest questions. I'm like, how do you know that? He reads a lot. And so he's constantly challenging the status quo, right? Just because we did it that way 10 years ago, do we have to keep doing it that way? And that is the epitome of a growth mindset, right? You're continuously pushing the boundaries of what could be. And I think that permeates the entire DNA of Glidewell, right? And that's just part of the way that we do it. And Jim talked earlier about really being hands off and not telling employees what to do. And some of the best ideas that we get actually come from the bench, from our technicians who are just tinkering and say, have you ever thought about doing this way? Or I came up with this idea, and you find these great things that pop up out of nowhere, and people here are encouraged to do that. We have programs in place that actually encourage people to do it. So we have like an innovation awards program. So we encourage people to submit an innovation. If a patent gets submitted with it, they get a small bonus that goes along with it. So we try to encourage a constant innovation, not just from the people who we hire to innovate, right? Our engineers or our material scientists, but every employee is encouraged to innovate every day. And then on top of that, we have leadership programs that we've developed that our employees can go through. And that's also really trying to teach them around having a growth mindset, not letting fear take hold of your decision making, really trying to find out what is the basis of your fear? Does it come from sort of some trauma in childhood, or is it coming from leadership in the organization? How do you get around that fear? And then how do you turn that fear into something that you can do something positive with? Like, how can you turn fear into a motivational tool?
It's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, I think I'm a change person. I mean, I'm looking for change constantly, and with my employees, all the managers, I'm always asking them, "I'm not in your department every day. Can you guys come up with better ideas than I have?" So I'm always saying, "You guys do this. Just think about how to make things better." And we have a lot of people here who are doing that on a constant basis. I've had so many failures that I thought failure was my industry at one point. I thought that was what I was doing. Uh, so remember that I sunk $18 million into a scanner company starting about 2005. We had to close the doors eventually. Those are the kind of things. There's some really big numbers that we've spent looking for success, and yet they haven't all succeeded for.
Did anyone lose their job? That's the question. Or are they
Well, I
encouraged
yes,
to
yes,
have bad ideas?
yeah, I ended up having to take over a company that was in and basically insolvent when we started handing them some money, and pretty soon, $18 million late. By the way, it was an $800,000 loan I gave, and to save the $800,000, I realized I had to start paying all their bills. This is down in San Diego, and after about 8 or 9 years, I was putting in at that time, what, $300,000 a month to keep
Hmm.
them floating,
Hmm.
and, we've eventually had to close the company down. So, yeah, there wasn't many people lost their job, but I think there was 6 or 8.
There's a few, yeah, like four, yeah, about five, six,
Yeah, we
something like
offered them
that.
the
Most of
opportunity to
them,
come to up to
yeah.
we're about 100 miles away, so it wasn't an easy, I couldn't just move everybody up here, but,
But the
uh
one thing that we did do though, Jim, is that so that, yes, the scanner company was a failure, but then we took that technology and our learning from that whole thing and some of the
mhm.
people and turned that into the chairside system that
And
we have today.
and the software they had
Yeah.
developed, we did keep that.
Yeah.
By the way, these people had a patent, you wouldn't believe that, a
Mm.
patent on printing
Models.
dental objects and models with a 3D printer. We inherited that. Do you believe that? Have you seen
Wow.
That's
you've
amazing.
seen
It's
anybody
a
so
little
by the
funny.
way, that's my patent. By the way, that is our patent, and you would think that's worth a lot of money. It would be if I wanted to chase after my competitors and brothers in the industry, and we elected never to do that. Had a patent issued back, what is it, 204 or 205?
It was a while ago.
That was
Yeah.
one of these engineers who put together, and I looked at it, I said, "I can't believe this patent was ever issued." That was the main thing. But then after it was issued, we actually used it a couple of times when we were threatened with some patent litigation from one of the company was like them. They called us up and said, "You're violating this patent." I said, "Have you ever done this kind of a thing?" He said, "Yeah, we do that all the time." I said, "Well, you're violating my patent." And they said, "Okay, hold harmless, we'll both run away." We have 125 patents issued today and another 75 maybe applied for. And those are just precautionary patents that allows us to do things. They're never meant to go after. We're not patent trolls. We don't care about enforcing patents hardly at all. And people do send us letters sometimes when they think we're in violation of one of their patents. But by and large, we would never issue a letter to anybody else. We don't do that. I'm just trying to make sure I can continue going.
Yeah, and this says a lot about you, frankly. And Mike and I have some trademarks ourselves, and we see that they get used from time to time. Same thing. We're just there so that
Yeah.
somebody doesn't reverse it on us.
Right.
So, Mike, I know you have chomping at the bit. Well,
No,
jump in
no, and
there. Go ahead.
this is amazing. Being in industry 18 years, Jim and Stephanie, I've seen a lot in the lab space, the implant space, dentistry in general, and how companies grow and succeed. And obviously, Glidewell in my early career, 18 years ago, I was very familiar with your company, and you continue to transcend. So, cheers to you both, and then obviously getting to know you more on a personal level and through your organization. Um, the question I had, and I know we've been kind of focused on leadership and what you do, but I have something a little more lighthearted. Like, what do you all do for fun? I know Stephanie, you have a dog or two. I know you enjoy them. Jim, obviously, you shared, obviously family times more importantly, got to meet your wife and at your place a few months back. But tell us, what does Stephanie and Jim do for fun, or what do you do to kind of decompress, or you just all go all the time?
Well, Michael, I decompress when I come to work.
Perfect.
Yeah. Even at my age, I have 4 teenagers, if you will. They're 15, 17, 19, and 21. And so I have a lot of joy with my family. My wife is she's a little younger than I am, obviously. And they're actually over in Tajikistan, where she was born and raised. And my entire family's over there for a 2-week period of time. And I've been on my own ever since for, the last week or so. But I play golf. I do a little bit of boating, mainly golf. I'm a pilot, so I also still fly a little bit, but I don't know. I actually enjoy being at work. I think most of you know what my exit strategy is: death. When I die, I get out of the business. Other than that, no, there's no such thing as retirement in my life. I think it's hard for me because I think I have a lot of knowledge about the industry. And if I can keep doing good things that benefit employees and patients, then I'm going to keep doing that. And I have no right to retire. It's not something I should do. I owe it to the industry not to retire because I think I can still help. Obviously, when you're 80 years old, you're not looking at money, and I've never needed money for 40 years. So I'm not doing this for money. We almost run a nonprofit organization out here in that, I say that all the time, and actually a lot of it's tax avoidance. I reinvest almost every dime the company makes into projects that benefit our employees. I don't ever think I have the right to take money out of the company that would benefit
You know
me.
what? On that note, and I want to hear Stephanie's answer to this as well, but really quick, can you tell our listeners, because if they have not toured your facility, they don't understand that you have healthcare and doctors on site and everything. Can you share a little bit about that and what prompted that? Because I think it's amazing. I was so absolutely stunned by your campus and what was available for employees.
So having the health center on campus, is that one?
You have the restaurant. I mean, you really do give back to your employees. I saw firsthand. I saw something on the wall where each employee, if they want to, get their own business card.
Mhm.
You're always putting in encouragement or different sayings on the walls. I mean, everyone we've met on the tour, executives as well as, like you said, bench that work in the bench, all had kind of this empowerment within them. I mean, just seeing and being in the industry for a while. So I guess what Julian's saying is, what you give back to your employees, you really do. You do give back a lot. And when we were there, like you said, when it came to all those activities, or like you said, the restaurant, the donuts,
And I'm even specifically referencing like all of your employees get dental care on site if they want it. Also medical, right? Is that true? Or is it
So
dental, just dental
so
specifically?
they can come in. We have 2 hygienists on staff, so they can come in and do a cleaning. So I think it's $40 for them to come in and do a cleaning. I mean, maybe it's a selfish thing. We use that as a funnel to identify potential marketing cases too. So all of the marketing that you see that Glidewell puts out, those are all typically Glidewell employees at some stage in their career here. So they so they can get a cleaning, but then if they're selected as a marketing case, then that all of that dental work is done at no cost to the employee as well. So getting a full arch roundhouse, full arch zirconia all on 4 case is very expensive, and they would probably never be able to afford that outside. And they're able to do that by having that opportunity here. The medical clinic came about, I think it was 2007, 2008. obviously in a dental lab, you have a lot of repetitive motion injuries, and technicians are looking down. They have neck and back injuries, a lot of hand injuries, and just people get sick, right? Like life happens, you get sick. And what would happen is, especially on like workers' comp claims, our employees wouldn't take the time to heal their bodies because they wouldn't take the time off of work to go to their physical therapy appointments, right? Or to go see a doctor and to get the exercises that they needed or get the medications that they needed. And then employees would be sick and they'd be out for weeks or at a time. And so maybe selfishly, if we had a clinic on site, they'll go get medical care on day 1 versus day 21, right? And we have a physical therapist on site, and that's really from a selfishly perspective, they're getting back to work. But from their perspective, I'm giving them the medical care that they need in order to heal their bodies quicker, right? And what happens is they just end up in so much pain because you don't take the time to go to physical therapy and get those exercises that you need to do. And if the physical therapist is here on campus, they can go over on their lunch break. And so we saw a huge increase in our employees' well-being and their like ability to get back to work and be able to provide for their families quicker by offering those services on campus, whether it was just, the physical therapy appointments or being able to go to the doctor when you're sick. They wouldn't go to the doctor, and you'd end up with people with stage 4 cancer because they weren't getting something checked early, right? So we saw a decrease in our cancer rates. We saw a decrease in some of the spending that we had on the medical side by just providing that service here on campus.
Amazing. So I appreciate you sharing that because I think it's amazing. Going back to the question about what you do for fun, did I read that you're kind of an extreme sports adrenaline junkie? Is that true? Like, I hear you're into some things that are next level nutty, and then I definitely want to jump over before we. And there's no rush, but before we wrap up today, I definitely want to talk about Jim's book as well. I saw you grab that, and I definitely want to make sure that everyone knows about it because you guys have incredible contributions to this industry and to our society as a whole, and we just really appreciate you. But yeah, so are you a adrenaline junkie, Stephanie?
I do have an adrenaline need, I guess, for speed. I don't know. I've jumped off a couple mountains. I really loved paraglide, and my kids made me promise not to jump out of an airplane. So I said, okay, well, you paraglide with me instead then, and I'll give up the parachuting. Jim I've been out on the boat a couple times. He's got jet skis. I do like to go pretty fast on those things. They're really fun.
Care center.
Yeah. I love scuba diving. Yeah, I mean, but I'm not that crazy. I'm not that much of an adrenaline junkie, but yeah, for fun, I do have a dog. I have 2 kids, and I enjoy as much time with them as I possibly can. My son is in San Francisco, so I don't get that much time with him anymore. But he's getting married next year, and then my daughter is 19 and she's getting ready to leave me for a year and go off to Europe for a study abroad. So I'm trying to spend as much time with her for this last month that I have her in my house before she takes off and goes abroad.
That's amazing. So sweet. Yeah. So there's so many things I really want to have you back on the show at some point. We're definitely gonna, if you guys are open to it, feature you both in our magazine Influence. I would love to be able to share with our readers as well as our listeners some of, the highlights around your guys' lives, careers, and everything at some point here, maybe in the fall issue if you guys are open. And also, Jim, are you willing to share a little bit about your book, which is just awesome?
Well, I was going to say, if you've gotten any interest in what we've talked about today, the whole story really is in this book. I wrote it about 4 years ago. It's called Constant Change, which kind of describes what I do. Though the publisher wanted me to change the name, he didn't like the name. We don't publish a book for money. Obviously, it cost us quite a bit to do it. But if anybody wants the book, you can buy it on Amazon. I don't know what is $10, $11, $12 or something, and Amazon will ship it to you even. So it's just an easy book. We don't make any money on it, but it does describe the kind of the way we run a business and the thought process behind it. And I think it could help anybody in our industry or almost any industry on how to build a large company. I think one of the thoughts that the interesting thing about our company is we are the largest private employer in Orange County, California, and it's a place with 41 cities. We're the largest. Now, why would a dental laboratory be the largest employer in Orange County, California? It's a very, very interesting story. Yeah, Disneyland is bigger than we are. We got that. But almost no other company, even the public companies around here, don't have as many employees as we do. So whatever we're created here, whatever that mix is, it's in this book. So anybody wants that book, remember, Constant Change, Amazon.
Yeah, I encourage everybody to read the book. Did you do an audible version or an audio version as well?
There is an Audible version.
Yeah, there is.
Perfect. So there's no excuse for anyone not to listen or read the book. And then, yeah, just really exciting. So out of curiosity, and Mike, I'm not gonna not let you speak again, I promise. But this is what we do. So Stephanie, I'm kind of like you. I'm like, "Arr." um, what? So for you guys, are you open and sharing what's on the docket? What's coming up?
We have something big that Jim is launching. I'm going to let you talk about it because it's your baby.
Well, it's an extension of a zirconia tooth project that I'm working on called Glass, and it's a mixture of glass and lithium bisilicate and zirconia. I don't know. I think when are we going to launch it? Is it
In a couple weeks.
a couple of weeks?
Yeah.
Okay, so
And,
it'll be
and
a
you,
video app. Well, you know what's interesting that we have. If you go on the App Store, on Apple App Store, you'll find Glidewell TV.
Mhm.
It's a free download. You download that, and you'll go on there, and you'll see a whole lot of laboratory tours that are actually in there. So if
There's lab
anybody,
tours, there's educations on there. All
yeah,
your dental CE is all on there. We live stream our symposiums on there. There's patient education.
yeah.
So there's several channels on there.
So it's a good access to see how a company like this is actually run. We did it for our doctors, but laboratories are welcome to get on, dial into that thing too. It's called we call it GTV, it's Glidewell TV. And it's just like a streaming thing. You go on there and you can download anything you want to. So remember when I don't know, we've produced over 500 videos, but to find them, you have to go on YouTube and kind of search around. And it's like, what is it? The one I always get a kick out of every time I look up my own laboratory, you know who comes in my face? What's your call at lab?
Dandy?
Dandy Dental Lab. The hell, I'm just trying to find my own company. You see something like that in your face, it's pretty interesting. And I don't know if it does them any good or not. But anyway,
So
that's,
Glidewell TV or
yeah, you get on
GTV
Glidewell
and
TV.
Yes.
Guarantee you won't be bothered by anything but Glidewell. We'll bother you about it.
right.
And then the other thing that we're launching later this in a couple months is this lasting impression. So you guys are the first ones with the first sneak peek in our studio. And this is going to be a little interview series, me interviewing Jim, really kind of digging more into the stories behind the stories that didn't make it into Constant Change. So I'm super excited to
That's
get
true.
that started
Yeah.
because there's
can't
so
wait to
much
hear
that didn't
those.
make it into the book.
That's true. The book is 300 pages. I still couldn't tell the whole story. There's a whole
You
lot
know,
of things there.
funny story on that, and then Mike, I swear I'm gonna let you. After we came to your house for your party, I posted a picture on social media, Mike and me in front of the mansion or something, and I can't tell you how many people wrote me privately to tell me they had partied with you, Jim. And I've got some stories, so I'll leave it at that for the
I was
moment.
out
But
of
go ahead.
town when that happened.
Yeah. What I was going to say, Jim, is you did share that project, that glass tooth and that with Julian, and I remember sitting at the table and you brought it out and you had one of your technicians or representatives there, and I could see the excitement in your eyes regarding that. So thank you for giving us that behind the scenes, even a couple months ago, and looking forward to you sharing that to the world.
It's amazing.
But I also agree with that app is a great idea. But other companies, you'd mentioned just dental labs and dentists. I think dentistry or other companies in general could benefit from hearing your story, both of your stories, as well as how you run your company and that app. I mean, in our PD, Julieanne, we work with a lot of dental companies that are non-dental labs, non-implant companies. And your story is very unique in what you do for your employees. I know there's other great companies that we work with that do the same, but that you're sharing this here, I think the industry in general in dentistry and outside of dentistry could benefit from listening to this podcast, and I'm sure will, and we'll make sure that as many people do. So I just want to thank you personally for your time today, as well as when we were at your facility, and look forward to, working together more in various capacities. And I also want to thank, our sponsor, American Dental Institute, for sponsoring our show out of Orlando, a great training institute. And Julianne, thank you for a great morning with our two guests here.
Yeah, and before we wrap up, I'll also give a couple shout outs. Our new magazine Influence just launched. Can't wait to feature you guys if you're willing, which is really dedicated to lifting people up in the dental industry. So it's literally featuring the most influential companies and people who are lifting others up. And so you guys are an absolute fit for that. Shout out to United Concordia and some of the companies that have been a part of that. Dykema is coming up. I know that Mike and I will be there, so please track us down if you see us there and say hello. Do you guys get out there at all? Stephanie, do you ever come out to?
I won't be at Dykema. We have a team who will be there, so I'll definitely
Okay,
have Bruce come over and say hi to you.
awesome. We'll make sure we seek them out and say hello. And also just a shout out to your team. Your team, it's because of, Rob and Robbie and some of the people on your team that we all got connected. So it's like you guys have some really amazing little happy hours. I encourage doctors in the LA area to get involved and come out to those, see some of the stuff that you guys are offering. You can reach out to Mike and me, and we can put you in touch with the right people at Glidewell. But they're persistent, they're consistent, they're absolutely kind and generous with their time, and follow through has been extraordinary. And it wouldn't have been without them that we ended up here. So I just want to, shout out to them and say thank you. So, any last parting words of wisdom for our listeners today from either of you? Just anything that comes to mind. How any shout outs on leadership or just mindset, anything that you can
Yeah.
leave our listeners with.
Just like the book says, do not be adverse to change. Whether it's how you get to work in the morning or when you go to work or what projects you're going to do. Most of us are all resistant to change. We get into a habit of doing things the same way every day. You have to challenge yourself. Like some people think I act very young for my age. It's
Mhm.
because I challenge myself to change everything all the time. So many things. And just tell our list, your people that are watching today, learn to change constantly.
What an amazing piece of advice. How about you, Stephanie Goddard?
I think, I'm so fortunate that I love what I do every day. And I run into so many people who just they they do what they love, so they love what they love what they do, right? They get up every morning and really enjoy life. And I would say, if you really don't love what you do, find something that you do and go, set your mind to making that happen in whatever realm it looks like, right? So, but you've got to find a way to inspire yourself so that you can inspire others. So I think I would leave it with that.
What beautiful advice. Really appreciate you guys being on the show. Jim Glidewell, thank you so much for being here and gifting us with your presence. And Stephanie, same to you. And
Thank you for
Michael, thank
having
you
us.
for absolutely. Michael, thanks for being my amazing co host and dear friend who I trust with everything. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you, everyone, and look forward to next time. And looking forward to coming out to Glidewell and visiting you and Stephanie again, Jim.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Bye.